Hey there, welcome to this episode of Author Success Show. Today is going to be a special episode because for the very first time, I'm going to have two guests together on the show. The guests who are coming today are Gaurav Mandlecha and Durjai Sethi. Gaurav and Durjai graduated from BITS Pilani in 2019. One common thing about these two friends is their love for the institute where they passed out and also this hunger to learn from the trailblazers of the industry. This led them to interview 25 highly accomplished BITS Pilani alumni and feature them in their book called PILANI Pioneers. So let's hear from Gaurav and Durjai. Welcome to Author Success Show, Durjai and Gaurav. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast.
Thank you for having us. We're really excited for the session.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Absolutely. Ever since I had the copy of your book, I was super excited because I couldn't believe this was done by first-time authors, just 23-year-olds who are fresh into their careers. It's just amazing the kind of effort that you guys have put into the Pilani Pioneers. So from the introduction, I could get a backstory, but for the benefit of the audience, I want you to share how did it get started? Since the idea came from Gaurav, could you just tell us the backstory of what inspired you to go ahead and interview all these people?
Yeah. So to be honest, there are many versions of it, and I call it many versions because anything that you do, right? I mean, there are multiple scenarios, instances that happen in your life that just add on to, inspiring you to do it, right? So for us, like there are 2-3 reasons for it. One was a leadership summit that we wanted to organize while we were on campus. So the idea was we'd attended a couple of conferences, Harvard US India Initiative, Wharton Economic Forum. So these are done by students from, colleges that are in the US. So we thought, why not an Indian college do something like that, right? So we thought of BITS Leadership Summit, which was again on similar lines, like trying to create a place wherein there could be a dialogue between leaders, political leaders, business leaders, corporate leaders, all of them, and students, because only when ideas cross pollinate is when both generations benefit, is what we thought. So we thought of doing it, but again because of few reasons that didn't go through. But again, translating their knowledge and prowess was something that was on the mind. That was one. Second was back in June 2018 when we wanted to start it out. I'm not too sure if you're a cricket fan, but I'm guessing since you're from Chennai, I mean, you have to be a CSK fan. So there was this podcast or a video series of sort called Breakfast with Champions, which Gaurav Kapoor used to do with all cricketers.
Right.
So that's when we thought that, hey, why don't we do, like a spin-off, but in BITS context, right? So we thought BITS has had some amazing business leaders, CEOs, both on the corporate side and startup founders. So why not interview them, right? So that was the thought. And the initial thought was to do it like a podcast, but then we realized book is more challenging. And that's how, to be honest, the idea began. So that's more about like how it came into being, but the why behind it is more important. Like Durjai and myself, we are young graduates, right? Like barely been 2 years, 3 years into our careers, right? So for us, obviously, whenever somebody looks into the future, you would want to be at the helm when it comes to like a business career, like leading a big organization, creating an impact. So for us, the idea was very simple. Yeah, these people are 25 years ahead of us. Why not just go to them, ask what worked for them, what didn't, what were their struggles, what was the journey like, what are their major learnings, and encapsulate all their learnings through their life journey in the form of a book. So to be honest, that was a simple thought that, hey, we want to be where they are. So what's the easiest way to get there? Like, seek their knowledge and build like a bridge, which is the book through which everybody, possibly the readers, can, cross that path through the learnings and then become who they are, right? So honestly, that was the thought.
Amazing. I'm really happy because what started as a personal mission, right? Like you really wanted to understand what helped these people reach where they are. But then you didn't have that just as a personal selfish motive. You actually wanted to put it together as a book so that it reaches so many more people, and you'll also get easy access to these people if you're doing a book. If you just said that, hey, I know you love having frappe, right? So if you can come and have a cup of coffee with me, not everybody would immediately say yes, though you are also from the same institute. But when you approach them with the intention of writing a book, the chances of getting a yes is far higher.
Yeah, wouldn't disagree. I mean, definitely it helped us reach out to these people and again seek their time, which we otherwise wouldn't have, right? And plus the candidness with which they shared their learnings, because they knew that, probably through the book, they can sort of pay it back to the community
Yeah.
and to young people, right? So I think definitely having a book as the intention for the meeting and then eventually that blossoming into a relationship has been a fun byproduct of the entire activity.
Nice.
I
Durjai,
also
at
wanted to
what
ask
stage?
Gaurav a question, Jyotsna.
Sure.
So, Gaurav, was that a part of your initial pitch that this interview would become a book, or was it just open-ended that it could be a podcast, audiobook, book, or just actually a conference?
Right. So to be honest, the first interview, and Durjai, you know it well, and thanks for bringing this up so that we can tell it to the larger audience. The first interview was an in-person video interview, right? So I remember, I was visiting my sister in the US, and we interviewed Mr. Prem Jain, who used to be the senior VP of Cisco. He's sold 3 ventures before and is now building his 4th one, which is Pensando. So remember, I remember we were in his office and I had this old handy cam of sorts, again, very, not heard of these days, obviously. So I wanted 2 cameras. I wanted to be all professional. So I had one phone, which was taking, the video from one angle, and then a handy cam.
Amazing.
And that was funny, right? Even he was he's been the techie, right? He's ridden waves and he's like, oh, do you still use a handy cam? But he was very kind. But that was the first interview we did. But then after that, we realized a video interview is a lot of production, camera angles, editing, and then refining and putting it out, right? So we realized, yaar, ye 25 baar to nahi hoga. This is just too cumbersome, right? So then we shifted to hey, can this be an audio podcast, which is fairly more easier, right? All you have to do is put the recorder on, obviously assuming there is no noise, but do that and then edit it, right? But then we thought that podcast is also great, but and this is back in 2018, right? Podcast is very popular today, but 3 years back it wasn't. But so we thought that a book is more challenging, right? And so that's when we thought that, hey, you know what, let's do it like a book. So the first interview was in June 2018, and that was a video interview. And then the idea was ki YouTube par ek video channel hoga, and then there will be the interviews. But then later, from the second interview onwards, which was Mr. Fanindra Sam of Red Bus, that was when we were okay, now we were doing a book again. Then we didn't know how it would pan out, but again, I think the optimism of youth is what kept us going. Not like we are old today. Not like we are senior folks today, but that was when theek hai, kar lenge, dekh lenge.
Yeah, it's okay to make mistakes, right? Yeah. It's not that somebody's going to hold you accountable. Yeah. So Durjai, at what stage did you join this project?
I joined in August 2019. Correct me if I'm wrong, Gaurav. I think it was end of August or early September 2019. That was when we had just graduated. We graduated together. Gaurav is a batch senior, but he did a dual degree from BITS PILANI, and I was a single degree student. So we graduated at the same time, which was around July 2019. And around that time, so just after that, we have BITSINS Day. BITSINS Day is celebrated every year, first weekend of August. And around that time, I published an article on my blog, and I shared it on a Facebook group called BITSINS for Each Other, which has about 36,000 alumni from BITS. So, and it was really it was welcomed very warmly. People felt really nostalgic. People generally feel nostalgic around that. But the article hit them in a sweet spot. They really missed college. Some people from the 1960s batch, which was one of the first batches, reached out to me saying that through your article, we remembered our college days. Then they shared their articles. And it was a really overwhelming and warm experience. And I think Gaurav probably felt the same way. And that is when he asked me to hop on this journey and continue making the Pilani Pioneers, or whatever it was called, was just, sharing insights from 25 BITS in business leaders. But I think Gaurav can shed light on why he decided to collaborate with me, or why he decided to bring me in on this journey.
Yeah, I'm curious to know that, because I from what I read in the introduction, Gaurav had already interviewed almost 22 people by the time
Exactly.
Durjai came on board. So you could have just been a solo author of this book, right? But why did you need a
No,
co-author?
no, that's not true. I definitely couldn't have been a solo author. A bit of context. So yes, Durjai and I was a year senior to him. Mine was a 5-year course. His was a 4-year course. So that's how we graduated at the same time. One thing about Durjai, and sure, I mean, we have the short intro there at the back cover, but Durjai is very, very emotive, right? I mean, and not just and expressive would be a better word, and not just through his writing, but through his art, right? So he's been in the drama club right since his first year. He also writes poetry. Funnily enough, Durjai and I met through this one engagement wherein I wanted some help with building out like a narrative in Hindi in right words, and Durjai was a part of the poetry club, drama club.
Oh,
So so Durjai has very good command over Hindi, English, and everything literature and art, right? So I always knew that, and then to be honest, I attempted writing one chapter, of the 22 interviews, and I realized, okay, I can write, but there's a difference between writing and persuasive writing, right? And when Durjai, shared that article with me, I just knew, right, ki boss, this is the missing piece in your story. आपने इंटरव्यू तो कर लिया, ठीक है. I'm sorry if it's Hindi. I hope that's I'll try
it's
to
fine.
stick to English. But I knew for a fact that okay, interviewing is just one small bit of it, right? But writing, persuasive writing it in a manner that engrosses the reader and gets them to read more is something that was missing from the entire project. And when Durjai shared that article with me, I read it. I was like, boss, this is who you're looking for, right? I mean, so by then, yes, we had done 22 interviews, but there were 3 very important interviews remaining, and which also in a way took us like the longest time to schedule. So Mr. Baba Kalyani, Mr. Padma Bhushan Shri Baba Kalyani ji, he was there. Mr. Hari Menon of Big Basket, Dr. GSK Velu of Trivitron Healthcare. So Dr. Velu is actually from Chennai, and he was traveling to Pune. So that's when we interviewed him. Then Hari sir, we interviewed him in his Big Basket office in Bangalore, and then again Baba Kalyani sir in Pune. So the idea was that okay, the interviews were done, but writing was like one major part of it, right? And I mean, it was like, hey, you want an answer and God is sending you that, hey, there is your answer. Like, why don't you just open your eyes to it, right? So for me, it was very like the timing couldn't have been better, right? So we knew. And so Durjai and I, we also have had like a great time in college. So we've never done any projects together, but just like, passing friends, like, hey, what's up? And then
knew each other pretty well.
Yeah. But I don't think we would have spoken more than, I don't know, 50 hours combined across the 4 years, right? Which is still little time, but I think that's special about BITS Pilani. You just bond so well that it doesn't matter how much time you've spoken. It's just about, hey, you think we can hit it off? Let's give it a try. And more often than not, it does, right? So for me, it was that. And again, like just putting it out there to everyone who's watching and listening to this, had it not been for Durjai, this project could not have been possible, right? Interviewing is just one part of like our journey, but writing and putting it out in a manner which our readers would like is, I think, 80% of the work, which I don't think without Durjai this would have been possible.
Awesome.
Just to note to your viewers and listeners, this is 100% paid promotion. I've already paid Gaurav a huge amount of money.
I don't agree at all, because what I really like about what Gaurav just shared is he knows what his strengths are, and he's passionate about meeting these people, interviewing all of them. But he also knew that there is somebody else who can do something better. And there was no, ego or comparison here. You just went ahead and approached him. So Durjai, what made you accept this offer? Was it the nice thing about co-authoring or something else?
Just because Gaurav was doing something, I can blindly follow Gaurav in any venture because I know that he has already thought of anything, every aspect of the project. And the sheer amount of enthusiasm that he has, it is groundbreaking. It is wall shattering. I mean, you can move mountains with that kind of enthusiasm. The project might fail, but you'll have a good time doing it. It is as simple as that. And just to clarify, I did join after Gaurav had done 95% of the interviews, but it never felt like I'm joining in a later part of it, because Gaurav always kept me updated with the interviews, and we had never discussed that this could be something. And Gaurav said that even he didn't know that this could be something.
Yeah.
So while we were doing our practice schools, I was interning with Ericsson in Chennai, and Gaurav was interning with Viacom in Mumbai. So while doing that, he was interviewing people, and regularly he would just call me up to chat. Hey, I interviewed this person. It was great fun. He told me about this thing, and my mind was blown. So this is really cool. And we had a great time chatting about it. So it felt like there was no gap on it. He didn't have to sit me down and explain, okay, this happened, this happened. He's like, you remember we talked about that when I was in Mumbai, when I was traveling with that, and that happened. Yeah, so I need you to write something about that.
Right. So you always felt connected to the project.
For sure. And if you see any other interviews that we have done, or whenever we share about it, we both speak in terms of we. It is a collective project. I mean, we have handled different aspects of it, but Gaurav made it a point that it is always a we thing that is happening. And that is really, really important. And like you mentioned, Jyotsna, that we both knew our strengths and weaknesses, and we respected each other for both the parts. And I think it is mentioned in the book as well, when Mr. Abhishek Umbat, the first chapter itself, the founder of Goodera, he mentions that choose your co-founder very carefully. He mentions that find a co-founder with complementary set of skills, so that you can handle like your
twin.
Exactly. You can handle your domains and trust the other one with their domain. I think the same sentiment is reflected in Mr. Sagar Yarnalkar's chapter as well. So I think we didn't know that before writing the book, but it's something that is a testament that it's not just theoretical babble that two guys have spoken. It is something that we could do, which happened inadvertently, and it really works great.
Fantastic. Gaurav, before these interviews, how would you prepare yourself? And first of all, how did you shortlist these 25 people? Because there are so many fantastic alumni from your institute. And then once you knew that these are the people you're going to meet, what would your typical research process be before the interviews?
Right. Good question. And again, even we don't know how these 25 happened, because there are such great alumni, right? Even if we, like, if you give me, if you give us a task that, hey, sit down and write 100 great alumni from Pilani, and say you give us like 2 hours to do it, I'm sure we'll come up with a bigger list in 30 minutes, right? Because they are so many in number, right? So for us, obviously the geographical constraint was India. When we were in the US, we did one interview, yes, but after that, it was majorly we were going to be in India. Second was, see, obviously you have your dream list, and very happy to share that, for the 25, we just had to write 28 emails, right? So at least in our heads, we were sure that, okay, these are the people we want to reach out to. There are a lot more who we wish we could have interviewed, but it didn't happen, unfortunately. But there can always be a part 2 to the book, right? And which is what we'll plan in a few months, few years from now. But the idea was, like, these are great people. Like, there were a few which were no-brainers in a lot of ways, right? Like Mr. Baba Kalyani, we knew for a fact we wanted him in the book. Mr. Hari Menon of Red Bus, of Big Basket, Mr. Fanindra Sam of Red Bus, Mr. Harish Phad of Tata Sons. Like, these were like the stellar names we always wanted.
Must-haves.
Must-haves. And we knew we wanted to reach out to them, right? And no matter how much time it would take, we did. So again, I would say it happened by chance. It's not like one alumni is better than the other. I mean, certainly we are no judges of that. And I think all their contributions have been so great in their respective fields that there is no, like, there is nobody can compare. But for us, it was like, okay, we made like a prelim list of what we felt was right in our heads. And then we reached out to them, and luckily all 25 happened. It could also have been that, we would have reached out to 40 or 50 of them, and then of which 25 self-selecting ones would happen, right? But again, for us, it was 28, and of the 28, 25 happened. So that was one. Second, in terms of the research, I think I am personally a big believer of cold emails. My previous company where I joined in, and I've written it in the introduction as well, Airmeet, It was a cold email that landed me that job, right? And so Lalit, who's the co-founder, I'd written to him. You won't believe I'd spent 7 hours researching about Lalit and Airmeet before writing that cold email. I feel there is a lot of information over the internet. It would take you time, but go through the lengths and breadths of the internet to find out about a person, a blog they would have written, an interview they would have given, either on YouTube or say, in the news. Go through that, go through what their company has done, and then build a point of view, build a persona in your head about who that person is and what that company does. And then it's just a natural way of being curious. Oh, this person has done that. How did he do it? Right? Or they were in this tough spot. How did they come out of it? Right? So it was just that, forming, like, getting all the knowledge that you can about them, read about it, and then just follow your path of curiosity. Right? How did they do this? What made them take this decision? And that's how the research process was. But that said, call it borderline stalking, but I'm a big believer of reading all the public information that I have about one person before reaching out to them through emails or like messages, whatever. And that's how the process was. Like, read as much as you can about them, then just follow your curiosity. So yeah, that's how it was.
This is really amazing, because your research not just helped you to do better interviews, but it also helped you land those interviews, because your cold emails were powerful enough to grab their attention because you literally stalked them and knew everything about them before reaching out to them. And I think if you had not put in that kind of effort, this getting 25 interviews done out of the 28 people you approached wouldn't have happened. And I think this is a great message to people everybody out there who's following this, because a lot of times we have this fear of rejection, and that stops us from doing so many things. But you do not care, right? You just went ahead and just reached out to them, and I think that's a very good quality.
Yeah, I think it's
and I think Gaurav is being a bit modest with his approach. He's putting it quite simply. I mean, of course, that research takes a lot of time, and it took more than just dumb courage to do that, right? I think it's in the book How to Win Friends and Influence People, the 1936 classic by Dale Carnegie, where he mentions that if you want to make a person connect with someone, you have to share ideas from their interest. I mean, what is in the conversation for them? That is the only way you'll get through to someone. If you approach them with an ulterior motive or something that they can do for you, it'll be very difficult to break down that initial wall, rather than what Gaurav's approach in reaching out to these 28 individuals and then shortlisting 25 out of them, and his personal job was that he pitched all of these jobs, interviews from their perspective, their interests, how their lives impacted his learning, and how their lives and learnings would be a piece of insight for other viewers. Right. So, and to get their story across to other viewers, because this makes for a much better organic pitch, and not just a pitch. Pitch might have a bit of a negative connotation. True motivation to do this. So our why we did this, why this interview happened, was basically to share the insights from these individuals and disseminate them to a wider audience.
Yeah, and I think they could really sense that real purpose, which is why it made them just say yes to your request. And you could have just done this on Zoom. Why did you travel? Why did you meet them in person?
Okay, to be honest, we weren't so technologically savvy back in 2018. That's like a very top of the mind answer. But that said, I think that's just naivety there. Given a chance, Jyotsna, we would love to do this in person, right? I mean, we are youth, we love social interactions, right? And to be honest, I think we have very kind parents who've given us all the liberty to travel across the length and breadth of the country, and do what our mind says. But that said, big believer of interactions, and that's the reason I think the note also says that, hey, hit me up for a frappe and I'm always up for it, right? because the conversations you have when you meet in person, I think it's a different bond. And that's something that we've enjoyed while in Pilani, Durjai and I. Like, there are so many Bitsins out there we've spoken to just once in, like, while we were on campus, once in like 4 years. But even say 10 years from now, we know that, the person is somewhere and we need his help and we want to reach out. It doesn't matter if we haven't spoken after graduating for 10 years. It doesn't matter. We just spoke once while in college. Just that very instance, like, remembering that instance, hey, you know what, we probably met in the cafe having samosa together, whatever. It just, like, has a great callback and you meet, right? And I think that's the beauty of interactions. And again, like, so when a parallel story, when we got the chance to meet Mr. Prithviraj Chauhan, right, for the
he's written the foreword for the book as well, right?
So yeah, he's written the foreword. I mean, we've been very kind to seek his guidance for the past 3-4 years since we've known him. So this was back in this was 19th February 2018. Remember it very vividly because it's the first time we met him. This was for the BITS Leadership Summit, which we mentioned at the start of the conversation. He agreed for the summit, but to get him to agree for it, so we somehow got his phone number. We spoke on the phone. We asked him, sir, can we meet you? We want to pitch the idea of the leadership summit to you. He said, yeah, I'm in Delhi. We can meet for 15 minutes at the India International Convention Center. I think that's what it's called. So from Pilani to Delhi and then coming back, it actually took us 14 hours to do that round trip for a 15-minute meeting.
Wow.
We knew for a fact, hey, you're never gonna get this chance again, right? So big believer of you got it. I mean, if you have the chance, go get it. Yeah. So turns out like that first meeting, for instead of 15 minutes, it stretched for over an hour and a half. We discussed so much. He shared his ideas how the summit could be and things like these, but we take our chances. So that's what got us to travel the length and breadth of the country and luckily to the US for the interviews.
Fantastic. Now, in today's time and age where we want to automate everything and cut out human interactions, you really brought out the importance of real life connections with people. Because if you had thought of, oh my God, 14 hours just for 15 minutes, then 3 years later, he wouldn't have written the foreword for your book. Yeah. So we never know the, lifetime value of having a relationship when we actually just look at it as a transactional thing. But I'm really happy that you didn't look at it that way.
So when funnily enough, just one more story. Sorry
sure.
to get you there. Again, this time around, so he'd written the foreword for the book, but we wanted to hand deliver the copy to him. He has a very busy schedule, right? So he was in Delhi, and then incidentally, when again we spoke on the phone, he said, "Yeah, I'm in Bombay, but I'm just there for the next 2 hours, and then I have my flight to catch." Right? We were in Andheri. His office is in Nariman Point. If you've traveled to Bombay, it's about an hour and a half commute, and this is during the pandemic. This was just before the launch in August, right? So no locals were running. We had to take an Ola. Again, we took our chance. We were like, okay, there's a closed window. He said he has 2 hours, and it would, from this moment on, it would take us 1.5 hours to reach there. We were like, doesn't matter. Even if we have that 5-minute window to just hand deliver the book to him, we'll do it. And we just went. We didn't have lunch. I mean, we had a 5 p.m. lunch that day because obviously timings couldn't match, but we were like, hey, you know what? We have the chance, go get it. So yeah, just had to do it.
Amazing.
Just want to add a quick note on that. I mean, it's great. The live interactions, they're much more impactful. The essence is much more organic. And if those wouldn't have happened, you couldn't build the image of a person from the ambience. I mean, I'm not saying judging the book by its cover. It's just that how you interact with your surroundings says so much about you as a person. I wonder how the interaction would have gone if on 19th February 2018, Gaurav would have interacted with Mr. Chauhan on Zoom instead of going to IIC. And what happened there was Mr. Prithviraj Chauhan, the former Chief Minister of Maharashtra, held the door open for Gaurav Mandlecha.
So sweet.
I mean, a person of that caliber who does not need to even grace us with his presence, let alone open the door for you. It speaks volumes about what kind of a person he is. I mean, he's so much senior to us, age-wise, experience-wise, Ohada-wise, and even though, everything aside, he just treated us like, kids, our college juniors.
Right.
So that's a beautiful thing to cherish, I think, and
Yeah.
much better for the virtual memory you have.
Seriously, now this is making me wish that we had all met in person today rather than do this on Zoom. But next time when I get an opportunity to be in your cities, I'm definitely going to let you guys know and we'll catch up for a quick coffee. So when Gaurav collected all this amazing information, he would record these interviews as audio and would send it to you. What was your process after that, Durjai? Like, can you quickly walk us through your writing process? Because having the actual interview is one thing, but then making it so interesting in the written format is a different thing. And these don't look like a magazine or a newspaper interview where this person said this and then the interviewer asked this. It's not written in that format. So what made you choose this format, and how did you enjoy the whole process?
A great question, long answer. I'll try to be brief with this. But it took us 3 rounds of editing. I mean, the process was pretty tedious. So what we had initially was just the audio recordings of these interviews. And Our juniors in college were really helpful. They helped us transcribe all the interviews. They took time off their schedule to do this. And of course, I mean, just because of goodwill and, just because we just asked them for a favor simply. So once again, thank you everyone who helped us. So that was the first part, getting the transcriptions done. So that is how I got my first draft. Okay, so we have 18 pages of Baba Kalyani ji's chapter. And there's a lot of discussion about every topic, from the little details of a deal that happened to his philosophy in business and life. So to sift through all that information and to dig out the most critical parts that an average reader would be interested in knowing, and essentially filtering out and collecting all the parts which would appeal to our target demographic of even high school students, college students, fresh graduates, corporate titans. So that was a challenge in which see, everything Mr. Baba Kalyani or anyone from this book says is golden for us. I mean, it's really difficult to
leave out stuff,
not
right?
leave. How do you miss out pearls of wisdom? I mean, it felt it was basically FOMO of leaving out so much gyan from one section. But again, we were working with a lot of limitations, and of course, we could publish like all 18 pages of it. They deserve to be published. It's just that logistics don't work out that way, and we have 25 other. We have 24 other people who have similarly voluminous gyan to share with everyone, right? So that was number one. That was a challenge. Again, the initial approach was that Gaurav told me about his experience of meeting these people. So there was this entire ambience of how he landed in Mumbai, how he traveled to that place in locals, then he went to a cafe in Chembur. What did they order? What was the ambience like? How noisy was it? But they didn't care because the conversation was so invigorating. And this is genuinely great stuff. It is stuff you can build a movie on, and it is really fresh and things we can associate ourselves with. But it's just that although that was our first approach, we wrote the book that way from the eyes of the interviewer, going to meet 25 interviewees, and then through and through we realized that why don't we fixate more on the person being talked about itself rather than our take on that. Our take is personal for us. It means a lot to us. We want to remember it, but we have to be detached from it, so much so that we should be empathetic towards our readers. They might not care about what kind of weather was on that day, or what kind of feelings or nervousness was going through our minds when we were going to meet such a stalwart. But what they are interested in is the learnings, is the insights, is the wisdom from that person. So shifting model from our perspective to their perspective was step number two. And then if you see, I think you just pointed out that this is not in a magazine form, this is not a conversational form, there are no dialogues there. It is a novel, and it is meant to be a simple read. It is meant to be um, an easy to grasp guide for everyone. So that change happened because, how do I put it? Okay. So conversations are great. Of course, we can have that Q&A, but it's just that when you have that continuity of a fiction novel while you're reading non-fiction stuff, it just becomes much more interesting to you. You know what sections there are, right? Okay. So this is his business philosophy. You don't have to go through every question. So, Baba Kalyani ji, what was your business philosophy? Instead, it was just crisp. Back to bits, business philosophy, deal with this and stuff like that. So I think that transition was an interesting play and a modern touch to such kinds of books.
Right. No, I really like the fact that you guys detached yourself and did not make you the heroes of the book, but you instead thought of the reader. You kept the reader in mind and what would best serve them, and did everything keeping that as the main goal. I think that's why the book has come out so well. So after all the writing was done, and go ahead, Gaurav.
Just one thing, sorry. I think we also need to, or it's a responsibility to give credit to our dear editors here. I think that's the experience and expertise they bring. Tista, brilliant. I mean, on a very serious note, the way she would come back with very constructive point of view, right? I mean, for us, we are first time authors and everyone loves their own baby, right? So if you thought of the project in a certain way, you'd like it, right? But I think Tista and Elizabeth, both of them have kept us grounded, have really helped us, trim it at the right places, give it like a narrative and a look and feel, which is, again, as Durjai mentioned, like more third person than first person, and which is what a business book should look like, right? Fiction is wherein you want to feel engrossed, but as a business book you want to look at it from a very unbiased professional standpoint, right? So I think big shout out to Tista and Elizabeth. Both of them have been amazing editors for our book, and I think the four of us, so we've never met in person, all right? That's again very funny. I think this is the times we are living in. The four of us haven't met each other, but the type of understanding that we had, the type of collaboration that we were able to pull off, I think nothing like it. It literally took us months to pull it off, right? There would be tons and tons of Google Drive, Google folders, Google Sheets, tons and tons of edits, suggestions, but it just worked out so well. I mean, again, credit where it's due. A lot of it is because of Tista and Elizabeth. So huge shout out to
For sure. For sure, amazing insights, brilliant insights, and in the politest way possible. It's not that they were enforcing their seniority in the industry on us, given that we were first-time authors and young authors that who could have been, pushed back on. Hey, no, this is how it's done, and we have seen hundreds of books, and this is how it will be done. No, the decision is obviously yours. You are the author. We can do it any way possible. But why we are suggesting going through this route is because XYZ reasons, and then they let us decide whether we want to go ahead with that or not. And that is a wonderful way to work with the team. And we really hope this dream team of ours would be able to collaborate in future. And we really hope everyone gets a dream team like this.
Sure.
Certainly.
The message that you guys are conveying here is that don't try to do everything yourself. You have to collaborate with others. You need to have a team. Just like it takes a village to raise a kid, it does take a bigger village to write a book. And I mean, you were happy to receive this help. So at what stage did you reach out to a publishing house? I'm so happy that being first-time authors, Pan Macmillan came on board. So how did that happen? Whose idea was it to reach out to publishing houses instead of just self-publishing it?
Right. No, so to be honest, again, we've been very, very lucky when it comes to this as well. Again, the Bitsian Connect helped. So we had one. So again, as as you said, right, the options were either self-publish it through Kindle Direct Publishing, or go through a very renowned publishing house, right? So we did have with Durjai's help, we were able to land one leading publishing house, and then in the meanwhile, we were if since it's a video interview, do you see like a small portrait behind Durjai? So
Yes.
that is actually the clock tower, which is very iconic from BITS PILANI. And that was
Okay.
actually, like the cover that we had launched during a meetup. It's called the BITSA Global Meet. It's like a triannual thing. And the
Oh,
book
nice.
is called the Pilani Project. And
So that was the first version
that was the
of the
first
cover.
Yeah. So at this conference, we met Mr. Dilip D'Souza. He's a celebrated author, journalist, writer. He's written with almost all publishing houses, right? Like Macmillan, Westland, Penguin, all of them, right? And so he was very kind again. And we just met him at the conference, right? And he was there during like our first cover launch. And he was very kind. We asked him, sir, would you be open to introducing us to Macmillan and the other publishing houses? And he was like, yeah, sure, I don't mind. And you won't believe it was as simple as that. We asked, and he helped. I don't think everybody is so lucky.
I think he offered us first. I'm not sure if he asked or not. He was kind enough to offer us. I mean, the first conversation I had, he probably he had the conversation with you, but he volunteered. Okay, yeah, why not? Let me introduce you to more folks. Why not? It's just amazing the amount of enthusiasm he had for his juniors from college 30 years down the line.
So first of all, you guys didn't keep it as a secret. You guys were happy to share it that this is the upcoming book, and which is why you received that help. And secondly, I think he could understand your intention, right? You guys wanted this project to be so big. So that's why I think you got the kind of support and help that you guys got. Right. So what's the plan next? Like you're doing some fantastic promotions and people are loving the book. So what's next? Are you planning another book, or are you both planning to co-found a company?
Couple of plans in the play. There is some information which at this point in time, we're not supposed to share.
Sure.
I mean, we really wish we could, but in a few months from now, you'll hear a few months from now, few months from now, you'll hear something really amazing as an extension to the book.
Awesome.
We definitely want to do a volume 2 of it because there are so many more stories from BITS that haven't been shared. So that is definitely on the cards. But again, not immediately. We'll let this book have its own glory and for people to absorb it, and then have a volume 2 of it. About starting a company, founding together, I think we already have complementary skill sets. Durjai is big time into product and tech. I am into operations, marketing, some bit of it. So we do have synergies. And I'm pretty sure whenever either of us feels very strongly about a problem statement, we can just tell the other that, hey, you know what, I'm thinking about this. Let's research. And if you think it's compelling, let's leave our jobs. Let's build this out, right? And we already have a great friendship, working relationship, having done a good sizable project together. So I'm sure starting something together is a very natural extension to what we are doing. Not immediately, because we ourselves are also honing our skills. And we know when the time is right. We just have to ping the other person, hey, you know what, I'm thinking about this. Let's research something in this space and let's do it if it's compelling. So yeah.
Awesome. I'm really excited about all the things that you guys are going to be doing in the future. For me, as well as the audience, the biggest takeaway I would say from this interview is that one doesn't have to really create a big mark in their industry for 30 years and then write their book. They could just interview other pioneers and all these stalwarts in their industry and use that collective knowledge as a reason to become an author, just like you both. And that would not just enrich your personal experience, but also touch millions of lives. So thank you so much for doing this and publishing this book. And thank you so much for coming on Author Success Show and also sharing all the amazing behind the scenes of how this book happened. Thank you, Durjai. Thank you, Gaurav.
Thank you so much for having us.
Awesome. Thanks. It's been a pleasure. Just one last thing before we go. Since you mentioned, right, that you needn't wait till 30 years. there is also this thing that we are doing. Again, we feel we've benefited a lot from the time that these people have given us, right? And I think if it wasn't for the institute or all of us having gone to BITS Pilani, this wouldn't have been possible. So we as authors, we are passing on 100% of our royalties to a scholarship. We are not making any money from it. We don't feel this is not a money-making project for us. This is a passion project wherein we sort of want to be like, the catalysts of change, or, like be the amplifier of these journeys, right, through the book. So that's the honest intent. So we're not making any money. 100% of the royalties are passed on to a scholarship at BITS.
Thanks so much for mentioning that. It's really inspiring. So we're going to have the links to buy the book right below this episode. So all the people watching, listening, make sure you go ahead and grab your copy of the Pilani Pioneers.
Yeah, we could just hold it together once and then, yeah.
Yay. Awesome. Thank
All right,
you.
sounds great.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Yeah, thanks for having me.